Okay, hello Diamondbacks. It's Miss Hillman here. We're going to do test corrections for our percent of a number solving percent problems quiz. All right, for number one. Oh wait, before I start, we're going to remember our keywords. When we see is, that means we are going to put the equal sign. When we see of, that means we are going to multiply. So we use those keywords to form our equations. So what is what we're looking for? So I'm going to use my variable x to represent that we don't know what it is. Is we know means equal to. This percent we're going to write as a decimal. If you don't remember that, go back to your notes to check how. But it is just 7/10 or 70 hundredths. Of means to multiply. I'm going to use my parentheses to show that I'm going to multiply 70 hundredths with 210. Using your calculator, because calculators are allowed for this problem, for this skill, you get 147. Next, number two. What, again, variable x, is we put our equal sign. Now we're at 0.8%. Note, when we're doing 0.8%, we need to divide by 100. And when we do that, it's going to change it from its decimal to, and from its percent form to its decimal form, moving the decimal over twice. It's going to land here. We need a placeholder. So 0.8% as a decimal would be 0.008. That's what gets multiplied with 49. Now remember, this is less than a percent, hence why it's less than 1/100th. From here, using your calculator, you would get 0.392, so 392 thousandths. 1 and 2 done. Next, to number 3. What is 120% of 30? Now we're looking at 120%, means we have more than 100%. So we're expecting our answer to be more than 30. So using our keywords, x is 120%. Decimal point is here. When we divide by 100, it moves over twice. So 120% would look like 1.2 or 1 and 20 hundredths. Of, again, means to multiply, multiplying it with 30. When we use a calculator, we get 36. Number 4. 75 is 50% of what number? So this is a different type of problem. This time we're finding the whole. We want to know what the original number was. So we still use our keywords the same way. 75 is, so we put our equal sign. 50% we write as 5/10 or 50 hundredths. Of still means to multiply, but this time we do not know what we're multiplying with. So we use our variable. Because we don't know what we're multiplying with, when we're missing one of these two factors, to find this number, we must divide. And you're dividing by the number you do know. So in this case, 50 hundredths, you divide 75 by 50 hundredths. So in the calculator, you would have this expression, and out would pop 150. Next problem. Number 5, 25% of what number is 8? Now this is just like number 4, the previous one. We're finding the whole. We don't know what that original number was, but we know 8 is only 25, so a quarter of that number. Using our keywords, we have 25%, so 25 hundredths. Of still means to multiply. We don't know what we're multiplying with. We do know it's going to give us 8. So same as before, when we're missing one of the two numbers, so factors that would be multiplied together, to find that missing one, we divide by the number we do know, by the one we can see. In this case, 25 hundredths. So in the calculator, you would put this problem, and out would pop 32. Which makes sense, because 32 is only 1/4. 8 is only 1/4 of 32. Number 6, 48 is 6% of what number? So again, we are finding the whole here. So we have 48, and it's only a very small percent, only 6%. So this would be like 6 cents out of $1. It's only 6% of some much larger number. Again, when you're missing one of the two numbers you multiply together, you divide by the number you do know, In this case, 6% or 600ths. So dividing by 600ths, this is what should be appearing in my calculator. And my answer would be 800. So think about it. 800 is much larger than 48, which is what we expected it to be. Because 48 is only a small amount of 800. All right, to the back. We are moving through this quite nicely. All right, here we have 40 is blank percent of 80. So we have 40 is our equal sign. We don't know what the percent is, but we do know it got multiplied with 80. Now, as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, hey, 40% is half. So guess what? Again, when we divide by what we do know, because we're missing one of the two factors, we do get x is 50%. Well, in this case, it actually would come out to 50 hundredths, which you turned into 50%. And when you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. If my parents gave me and my sister $80 and said we had to split it evenly, split it in half, I would get 40, she would get 40. All right, from here, continuing that to our next one. What is 50% of 12? So it's really saying what's half of 12. You can do that in your head. It's 6. Half of 12 would be 6. But how would we set this up? As an equation, that's what we're looking for is equal sign 50%. We write as a decimal, and then we just multiply it with 12. That would give you 6. Number 9, what is 50% of 20? So again, you can do this in your head. You're like, oh, half of 20 would be 10. But how would we set it up? We would set it up as what is, so x equals, and then 50% we write as a decimal, and it gets multiplied with 20. Notice, because we know the two numbers that are multiplied together, that's why we multiply. And then finally, 27 is blank percent of 100. If you're writing it out, you put 27 is, missing the percent of being to multiply, and you're multiplying with 100. Now, I know in your brain you're like, oh, percent is parts per 100. So if I only have 27 out of 100, you probably guessed you had 27%. But how will we solve it? Because we're missing one of the two numbers that get multiplied together, we do its opposite, divide. In the calculator, you would have put this problem, 27 divided by 100. You would have gotten 27 hundredths, which you changed to its percent, 27%. And that is the test corrections for percent of a number solving percent problems.